Hey, it's Jeremy from jeremy.net. I am a self publishing comic book artist, writer, creator, and I share my creative process here live with you online. If you'd like to support this channel, get additional behind the scenes blog posts, see additional bonus live streams, I do a bonus live stream once a month. And in addition to that, you can read my current comic book project as a webcomic. You can go to patreon.com/GERIMI. That's patreon.com/Jeremy. If you would like to actually read my comic in shorter increments, I post 4 pages a month. My current series is Morning Star, which tells the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven told as a Western. You can read that at news.jeremy.net. That's the archive page for my newsletter. And if you would like to purchase physical copies of my comic book, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page where you can pick up physical copies of the first volume of Morning Star, as well as my previous graphic novel, Eye of the Gods, and an art book that I have for sale. So, normally I live stream Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. However, this week I'm doing it on Saturday, and next week is going to be a skip week. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I've got some personal family stuff I'm doing. I'm not going to be available next Sunday, so no live stream the next Sunday. And the week after that, we should be back to our following regular scheduled time. So I just wanted to give you guys that heads up. And with that, we shall get into the episode. I see Mark Rains in the chat. What's up, man? How's it going? Amaris is also already here. She says she's working on sketches for her second cosplay in December. And that's cool. Awesome. Happy to hear it. So let's get into today's work. So, change of pace. We are going to be doing some lettering. So here we go. This is page 2 from the final issue of Morning Star. And I've been lettering in Affinity Designer. And as I mentioned in the past few weeks, I had been sort of skipping, updating really a lot of the what I was working on because it was really just me learning the ins and outs of this program enough that I could letter and comfortably show you, how it's working. So this is Affinity Designer. It is a program that is very similar to Adobe Illustrator. Has most, not all of the features, but it has a lot of the features that Photoshop has. A few little tweaks and kinks in terms of how, little ways in which it's different. But that said, it is a, it's a program that's only $50. It's a very, very reasonably priced program for all the features that it offers. So I've been pretty happy with it. And what I have here basically is a template that I've previously set up where I just have, let me go in here and turn off this background. Let me turn off the text layers and my panel layers. Unless my panels aren't on the panels layer, that may be the case. Is that what's happening here? Yeah, let me move these up to where they belong. So I try to keep a separate layer for my artwork, a separate layer for my panels, a separate layer for my text. And the reason for that is because a lot of time, because I print my panels on my actual artboard, meaning when I go, all right, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So what I do is before I draw my actual comic book pages, I actually will letter so that I can print out on Bristol board the well, first, okay, I draw my thumbnails. And when I draw not my thumbnails are actually here to the right. I draw my thumbnails, and after I do my thumbnails, I do my lettering, and my lettering consists of my comic book panels, which these panels all have a fill that I need to get rid of. So let's get rid of the fill so that you can see the balloons so that you can see the dialogue. So here off to the right is the actual thumbnails that I sketched out for this page. And I've got normally throughout this whole process, I have a bunch of very small pictures off to the right of me working out either various versions of the composition for the page or working out the individual shots if I need to clarify it more than it is on these sketches. Because as you can see, these are very tiny sketches, hence thumbnails. And then also written notes of either suggested dialogue or just particular things that I want to call, like to clarify what is the action I'm showing here. So what's happening in this page is Michael, let me zoom in a little bit on the thumbnail, just so that you can. It's probably easier. Actually, you know what? It would be easier for me to just zoom in and let you see the thumbnail. So, what's happening in this page is that Michael, after being shot by Lucifer, falling off a cliff and laying underwater in the previous issue, he wakes up underwater. He's floating upside down in the darkness, bleeding, and God is speaking to him, waking him back up. And there's like a glowing light underwater off to the side, and he's basically telling God, this is over. I give up. I can't do this. God's telling him, no, you might be done, but we're not. I'm not done with you. He's like, he actually questions God, like, why did you even create Lucifer, making a being that's as horrible as he is, it can do the things that he is, make him as powerful as he is, but yet making him evil. And God says that this wasn't what Lucifer was meant to be, but the decisions he had to make were his choice. He's I'll show you why I did what I did. And his blinding light underwater kind of fills the panel, and that's how this page ends. So what I have here is, instead of having word balloons, I have it in caption boxes because Michael is underwater. So he's just thinking these things instead of speaking them. Because, he's underwater. Why would he need to be speaking? And then the way I tend to have God speaking in most pages, that I have him just in large white block letters. Usually without word balloon. Without panel borders, so that it kind of has an endless, expansive feel to it, and not circled by a actual balloon. That's just how I tend to letter him. However, in this page, because it's underwater and all contained, I've had to vary it a little bit. But what I do is I will, from my thumbnails, based on this, I will first draw out. Let me turn off the text layer. The first thing I do is I just draw out panel borders, and these panel borders just basically mimic what's in my thumbnails. So 3 tiers of 2 panels, and then 1 large panel at the bottom. So I just simply draw those out. And this thumbnail, by the way, this template that I have here just simply has guides for explaining what's going to be in each section. So first, I've got the safe area where my panel borders and all my lettering take place inside of. I have a crop mark that's very close for digital. So in case I'm sharing this in on Comixology or printing it as a webcomic, and I just have sort of my digital crop marks. Then I have my trim line for a normal print comic book. That's going to be 6 6 by 6 and 6.25 by 10 and a quarter. So that's the actual print size of the comic. And then outside that, I have the bleed. So the artwork has to go out beyond that for the actual print comic. And then outside that, I have a trade paperback size, and that's actually for when I print my trades of the comic. The service that I'm using needs a larger bleed than the bleed just for the individual issues. So part of that's because the dimensions are different. My comic size is a normal standard comic size. My trades are a large digest size. They're 8.5 by they're 5.5 by 8.5. So anyway, just wanted to give you a little bit of reference of what those markings are outside of there. So within my safe area, I put my panel borders. Then I go in and I actually have a Word document, which I don't know why it's not showing me the Word document. Oh, Let's see here. Let's see here. There we go. So I've got a Word document that has my dialogue written in here. And normally I will write scene description or panel description for this. You know, it's weird. From my screen, it looks like, okay. I was wondering why it wasn't switching over. From my screen, it looked like it wasn't showing the panels. But anyway, normally I'll write scene description and then I'll write the dialogue. But in this particular scene, I was actually spending a lot of time just working on the dialogue. So a lot of these are just dialogue with slash marks breaking up each word balloon or each panel. So it was a little bit of an experiment in terms of playing with my format. I don't necessarily love it that much. You even had to put notations in here that a slash means it's the same character, but there's a panel break. So this was me really trying to just focus on writing dialogue, almost like a play. And I think if I do that in the future, I'm just going to do it in more of a playwright format, you know, looking more like a script or a screenplay, as opposed to the way I laid it out here, because it just isn't as intuitive, particularly when I'm jumping back and forth. It's a little bit more formatting when I'm writing it, but it'll read cleaner for when I'm going back later. And if I'm sharing my scripts later on, let's say as bonus features in the back of my comics or trades, it would make a little bit more sense to people. So anyway, I would just go through here, copy my piece of text, then flip back to Designer, and then on my text layer, I go in, type out either the word balloon, the dollar that's in the balloon, or in this case, inside these caption boxes, or these other larger pieces of text. And I've got my little page numbers in the corner. When I'm done with this, what you're looking at here, this gets printed out on vellum by 8.5 by 11 vellum sheets, and then I actually do my rough pencils onto these um, onto these sheets of vellum. And I do it on vellum so that way I can flip it over. Instead of putting my artwork on a light box and flipping it to make corrections, I can just flip it on the vellum and make corrections on the back of that. And then I take that, scan that in, I print that out. And that's a very long-winded process of me getting to the reason of me saying the reason why I have my panels and my text on a separate layer is because when I print this out on Bristol to ink, I'll have my panel board, I'll turn the lettering off, and I'll have my rough layouts that I drew, which are cleaned up versions of the thumbnails designed to fit around that lettering, and I'll turn those into a light blue, like a non-photo blue, and I will print those out on the boards with black panel borders and the blue line pencils. That way I don't have to redraw the panel borders, and then I ink on that on 11 by 17. What that means is when I scan the final pages in, they already have panel borders there, and sometimes it looks a little awkward having the panel borders doubled up. And even though it helps me kind of align it with the page, it looks a little weird. So what I'll do is when I have the final artwork, the final inked pages, I will turn off the panel borders and turn on the text. That way the panel borders that are actually inked on the page will be what shows up here along with the letters, and then I will output that into TIFFs for print or sending out in other formats. Very, very long-winded explanation of what and why and how I go through this process. That said, this page is done. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit save one more time. And then I'm going to save as. And let's go into my chapter 8 letters. And let's save this as page 3. And then I could delete this text text balloons. Let's go in here and change this to page 3. And one thing that I was struggling with early on in using Affinity Designer is that in Adobe Illustrator, which I previously used to letter, when you are done typing in a text box, instead of hitting return, which will create a next space, a line break, if you hit command return, it'll close out that text box, meaning it'll make it no longer active. You're not typing it anymore. If you do that in Affinity Designer, it converts the text to outlines, meaning that you can no longer edit and manipulate it. It becomes physical shapes and objects instead of type that you can type within a type box. It's no longer editable type. It's now like a graphic element, and which is great for if you want to turn it into sound effects, but it is not great for lettering in the sense that you want to keep it flexible so you can keep editing it. So I had to, do a quick bit of research. It took a second to realize I just hit escape when I'm done typing to close out that text box. So if this is page 3, it behooves me now to find the thumbnail for page 3 and figure out what's going to be happening here. What's the lettering layout? So let's get rid of this thumbnail that's here. Let's go to my thumbnails folder. And page 3, I did a lot of different sketches along this page. So let me see here. It's page 4. This has some notes from page 3, but it's not all of page 3. What I'm looking for is usually I have what, here we go. What I usually have is one page or one particular thumbnail that I will zoom into. I'll have one particular thumbnail where I will actually put the word, I will, write out page 3. So for all the different thumbnails, like this is a different version of the page. There's other different sketches throughout my set of thumbnails for page 3 that have different page compositions. But the one that I write the words in here indicates that this is the page setup that I want. So what this is even though it's blocked off like a 9-panel grid, it's got three tiers with 3 panels on top, 3 panels in the middle, and then 2 panels at the bottom. Even though I kind of had a line in here separating it. To be honest, it's very possible. I'm looking at this and it looks like I kind of laid it out such that that the bottom panel is on the bottom tier. It looks like it's one panel, and then the other 2 panels are combined into one. And I think from the way I indicated it here, and this is the thing, a lot of times the reason why I have so many notes in my thumbnails is because it has to kind of remind me of what I intended to do. And it looks like I kind of set it up so that it's one image, but it's still broken into 2 panels. Let's see. I see my buddy Vince Moore saying he's heading into LA Comic Con, but was surprised to see me streaming. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do my live stream on Sunday, so I figured I'd get on it and do it today. And sadly, I'm not at LA Comic Con. I'm in LA, but you know what? I was talking to our mutual buddy Carl Altstetter, and he was saying that the show was really good yesterday. It looks like it's good crowds today. I think I may put that show on my agenda for next year and see if I can get in. But it's just I've had so many things I'm behind on in the past few months that I thought I need to keep my butt home and make comics. I love going to conventions. I love tabling. I love getting in front of people and sharing my work. But I just have not been actually making the books. And I feel like that's really what I want to put more of my energy towards right now. So, but yeah, thanks for catching the stream, Vince. Let's see here. So I'm looking through my notes on page 3. And I'm just looking to see if I really do want to have that last panel broken up the way that I indicated there, where it's going to be, let's see. Huh. Yeah, see, that's interesting because I'm looking at my thumbnails and it really does seem like it is it's sketched out like it's all going to fit into one panel. So I am not sure. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with it being broken. For now, we'll keep it as that last panel. I'll go ahead and unify the whole thing into one, but we will see as I go through whether I change that or not. So based on this setting here, a 9 panel grid, but with the last 2 panels combined into one. So if I go back to here, I've already got this broken into 3 even-sized tiers, so I don't really need to remake that. But what I will do instead is I will delete that panel on the right-hand side. And you know what? I'll delete this one too, because this will save me from having to do it twice. So I'll take these 2 panels, and I'm not going to measure, I don't need to measure them at exactly 1/3. I just get them close enough. And the reason for that is, in fact, I try to make it a little bit short. And then I'll take these 2 panels and I will option drag to duplicate them. I duplicate them, make that about even. So go once and twice, but hit J. See, that's another thing. The duplicate is different in Affinity Designer than it is in Photoshop. Yeah, see, it was Command J. That's what I thought. Oh, wait, I see. The problem is it didn't do a step and repeat duplicate. It just duplicated it right in place. So drag these over here. Yeah, let me try that again because that did not do what I wanted it to do. Normally, if you option drag once, that's what I intended it to do, is to have it just automatically duplicate again. Make sure that my guides are locked. Then I'll just drag this whole bunch back over to the safe area. So these are pretty tight in terms of the spacing between these panels, tighter than I usually do. But you know what? I don't need to get super obsessive about it. I'm usually I try to be pretty free. You know what? I really am not 100% happy. It's one of those things where if I don't change it now and I come back, turns out I don't like it later, it's going to drive me crazy. But it looks, it's close to even. To be honest, the space horizontally is narrower than the vertical spacing. So yeah, I think this will work. And then on this bottom tier, all I have to do is drag this one over here and it'll align with that panel. Then option drag in the opposite direction. Back over to this side. And so now I've got a 9 panel grid, except with the last 2 panels combined. So it's an 8 panel grid, basically. Let me hit save real quick. And now I actually have to go in here and do the grunt work of pulling in the individual panels. So in the first panel, it's got Lucifer shouting orders to his army. Let's see what I put there in the dialogue. So I've got Lucifer giving commands about the fire-breathing demons and fighting the shooting ones. So let's copy that piece of dialogue there. As a matter of fact, let's just copy this whole bunch and then I can chop it up as I need to. So copy, let's go back to Designer. Go to the text layers. Now this has a panel with a word balloon already drawn behind it. But what I really want is to grab this one down here because I've got sort of a pre-made ellipse that I can just kind of drag around and move. What I like to do is I like to start with just taking, what this is a preset word balloon, but instead of it being a text box, you can create text shapes. So you can create any shape. You can create a star, a circle, an oval, whatever kind of unique shape you want. And then instead of typing into it, you can actually transform it into a text box. For instance, if I grab this triangle from here, and these are things I learned from watching some tutorials about Affinity Designer online. This is one of the things that I was trying to figure out before I started doing the lettering. So I'm passing on knowledge to you that I've gleaned from the YouTubes. But you can create any type of vector object, a shape, and here's just this convert to text frame. You can convert it to text frame, and then and usually what you want to do is you want to make sure you delete any stroke or fill that you have before you create it, because otherwise it'll end up with that stroke or fill affecting the shape around it. So like for instance, if I had made the background of this gray, in fact, I do find it a little bit weird because usually I've tried this before and it's given me, instead of a transparent object, it's given me one that has like a background fill color, even though I can put text into it. But I can take this object and I can either insert filler text or I could paste in whatever text I'm going to be using. So in this case, I'm just going to put insert filler text just so you can see. If I drop this down to say 9 point, why is it not letting me change the leading? That is the other thing. It's just little, oh, no, here we go. You can change it to auto. You turn that off here. Let's go to default. There we go. Anyway, my point was simply that I'm not using a triangle shape here. I just wanted to show you that what you can do is you can create a balloon that just holds text. It doesn't have the actual panel border around it. That way, you can type in your text, make it whatever shape it is, fill whatever you need to fill it with, and then you can draw the actual elliptical balloon around it afterwards. So I'm going to take this balloon that has filler text. I'm going to fill that with the text of this from the page I just copied. And I had a note in there to cut out a little piece of the dialogue. So let me flip back real quick and see what that piece was that I was going to cut out. I had a strike through, just a line striking through it. Let's see here. Oh yeah. let the fire breathers take the brunt of the shooting. So I can just get rid of the part that's in between that. Let's let the fire breathers take the brunt of the shooting. And conserve ammunition will be outnumbered. So one of the things it does that's different from Illustrator is that when I think there is a setting so you can make it where the text will be cropped so that only what is visible, only what fits in the balloon is visible. But the way I have it set right now, it shows the overflow text. So all of the text that's down here is outside of the balloon, but that balloon is still the shape of the text box that will hold everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, drag and duplicate this. And in the first one, I'm going to delete everything after that first sentence. And then in the other one, I'm going to delete the first sentence so that the balloon will pop into there. And now I have two dialogue word balloons. And it's going to be kind of cramped in here. So at this point, I actually will come back and look at my sketches there. So it looks like I have it set up to fit all of that text flush with the top. So I may have to come in here and make these balloons narrower and taller. And that may also mean I'll have to play with the actual positioning of the type within it. While I'm doing stuff like this is actually probably a good time for me to lock this entire layer. That way I won't keep clicking on these on the panels and moving them or dragging them or duplicating them while I'm placing all of the dialogue. So what I'm doing in this phase is just me placing my dialogue. I'm going back and forth between my Google Doc that has my script and then this panel and then just laying stuff out there. And I see King Crow in the chat. How you doing, King Crow? We're doing a little bit of lettering, and I'm showing folks. I've been using Affinity Designer, which I recently switched over to, and it's it's a little bit different from lettering in Illustrator, but it is a program that has a lot of promise. And so I thought I'm going to give this a try. And it's funny, I was talking to some people in my figure drawing class about using Clip Studio Paint, which a lot of people love for actually drawing and painting and doing line art. But one of the people in my class who specifically uses Clip Studio Paint for illustrating, she says that she really did not like the lettering features in it. So I don't feel so bad now about switching to lettering in this program, because this program I already know how to letter in Illustrator pretty well, and I just don't want to switch to the subscription model. And I've been using an older version of Illustrator, which doesn't run on my new laptop. So I thought, it's nice to have an alternate version, something that works similar to what I'm used to. So that's, my reason for switching to Affinity Designer for lettering. And the reason why I dragged duplicates of these two word balloons down is because I'm going to try an alternate layout on this. Because right now I have it set up where you've got Lucifer saying two sentences and having these balloons side by side. I like to break my word balloon so that each balloon is a sentence. I know that I could just have the entire block of text in one large balloon, but I don't generally really enjoy lettering that way. If it gets really difficult to get this to fit right, I may end up doing that. But the other thing I'm going to try it where I've got the balloons stacked and have each of these as skinnier balloons sitting on top of each other. King Crow in the chat says he's doing well, and it's cool to catch me live for once. You know what? I am glad you were able to make it. I know that, the Sunday shows don't necessarily meet everybody's schedule. I wish I could schedule it at a time that that everybody could see it. But as it is, it's hard enough just for me finding a time that I can make sure that I do it every week. And you know what? Since you just jumped in, just a heads up, next week is going to be a skip week. So anybody else that's watching that just caught in, I'll try to remember to also mention it at the end of the live stream. But next Sunday, no live stream. We're going to be skipping it. I'm going to be doing some family stuff. And again, I apologize for abandoning you guys for one weekend. But you know what? Look at that as time for you guys to try your work, make some progress on your own comics. You know, get some lettering done, get some writing done, get some inking or layouts done. You know, chance to get ahead. So let's see here. If I stretch that all the way out here, I might be able to. Now the real question is, what would the balloons look like if this goes this far out? Because I can fit the dialogue there. And it's very possible that I may try this and it just looks super awkward and I just don't want to do it. So at this point, you know, and it's weird because I do feel like most of the time when I'm lettering, it takes me like a few pages of lettering before I'm really into a flow and going quickly from from panel to panel. So let's see here. At this point, let me. That's the other thing. I'm not sure if the eyedropper will copy the exact fill settings. Let me make sure I have this selected. Switch to eyedropper. Now in Illustrator, it will copy both the stroke and the fill of an object that I hit the eyedropper on, and it seems to have done that. I wonder what happens if I put it over the stroke. Nope, see, it's just picking whatever color and it's applying it to whatever I have selected. So it doesn't duplicate, it doesn't copy over the appearance. And that's kind of what I was hoping it would do. But I guess what I can do is I can grab this, I can go over to my styles palette, and it should be white fill, black stroke, 1 point, and let's just add style from selection. And we will call this, oh, I have to say rename. Let's say word balloon. Not a wood balloon. And so when I have other things like creature word balloon or demon word balloon, I will add those other ones as time goes on. But I don't really need to change this one because this balloon has the setting I want. But it is useful to have that in case I drag some objects around and I want to quickly apply a standard look and feel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two balloons and something when I'm, oh, I see in the chat, Keyman Monet Arts is here. He says, hey, Jeremy, can't stay for too long. Just seeing what you're getting into. I'm about to prepare for a live stream myself doing comics. All right, man, cool. Get your live stream on. Thank you for taking the time to stop it and check mine out. I'm doing some lettering in Affinity Designer. And one of the things I'm going to do here, when I am doing my lettering for layouts, I don't draw my the balloon tail, the part that's pointing to the character. Part of that is, well, the reason for that is because I'm going to be moving these things around. For the most part, these balloons are placeholders. And what I'm actually going to, I'm using them to help me figure out the positioning of the characters in each panel. So I may end up moving the characters to different sides depending on the composition of the page. So I'm going to move my artwork to fit my balloon placement, and at the end I will indicate in my layouts where I'm going to put the what direction to have the tails facing. so that way I can adjust that afterwards. Just like drawing my actual balloons would be sort of a waste of time at this stage. And now I believe that I had smart guides on so that it would show me as I'm selecting, like it would highlight the objects pretty much like smart guides. And I don't see that highlighted here as an option here. Let's see here. But that is a pretty good feature that that Illustrator has. Yeah, let me just lock this for a second and lock that for a second so that I can take these two, select them together, go to my Pathfinder, and I will hold down Option, which will unite these two shapes. But when I hold down Option, the nice thing is that within that shape, these things, the original shape is still edited. I mean, still editable, meaning that, as you can see, I can move this around, make adjustments, which that's the whole point of me doing this, is that I don't want to be locked into anything. I want to be able to keep this, the whole lettering, the balloons, the text, I want to keep it editable until after I have my, my penciled layouts dropped in here so I can make adjustments. And then as I ink it, I can also make adjustments. All of this is supposed to be sort of an editable process. Whereas if you just, that button that I showed, when I had this selected and I hit the add, it would just unite them. And now there would be an endpoint, there would be a node where these two meet, and it would just be a single shape. I wouldn't be able to continue manipulating the outline and the profile of these. So now let us unlock. And I can't remember, because again, I'm still getting used to this program. I can't remember whether unlock is, okay, unlock is not just hitting L again, it's Shift Command L. So let's Shift Command L. Well, that's odd. Or just unlock all. Oh, it's Option. All right, or not Option, Control. All right, so there we go. So my whole thing is I simply want to compare I want to be able to, whoops. Oh, see, that's the problem. I need to be able to just selectively lock and unlock, because I just unlocked all of those layers that I had locked, my guides, my grid. So I need to just go in and unlock these individual shapes. That just those pieces of text. I need to unlock those. You know, that's another thing that I am not necessarily in love with, is that in Illustrator, if you lock a layer and then you go, you know, unlock all, it doesn't unlock the layers that you have locked. It just unlocks the objects within that layer that you have, which I really prefer that. Because a lot of times I'm just using layers as a way to keep stuff out of the way. So my idea is that I wanted to be able to compare these two pieces of dialogue and see how they fit versus going in here and tweaking this to make it two balloons side by side. So in the end, whichever one I'm happiest with, I will move into this space, into this space. So let's see what happens if I move this here with the fire breathers. And this is something that I already cognitively know, but I try to avoid putting long words at the beginning and ends of sentences, because it doesn't help with the actual layout. And to be honest, the only reason why I don't try to the thing is I could change this. That's one of the things I do. Sometimes I will rewrite my dialogue. That's the advantage of lettering it yourself, as opposed to having a someone else lettering it. Is that you can. Most letterers don't necessarily have the freedom to just up and change dialogue because it doesn't fit in a balloon well. Whereas if I'm lettering this and I see that it doesn't fit well, I'm like, oh wait, I need to move this and see if I can change the way the sentence structure is to have it fit the balloon better. But the only thing I could really have it say is they'll outnumber us, which all that does is put another short word in between numbered and then still have one tiny word us down here at the bottom. So that doesn't really get me anything in terms of making the balloons feel less awkward. So you know what? Let me take this just to get it out of the way and drag it over one more. And now let's go back over here and put in some balloons. And all I did there was just do a quick keystroke to send it to the back so it's behind my dialogue. Take this other one, just duplicate it. Maybe make this a little bit longer. In fact, let's make it extra long just so that I can pull the bottom in a little bit closer. So with a balloon like this, what I would probably do is unite these and then have the outer edges cropped. In fact, I wonder if I should maybe make this a little bit wider too, so I can hopefully make the wrong one. Oh, I see Amar is on. He says, "Didn't know I was streaming today." Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get on tomorrow on Sunday, so I figured let me just get on and do one today. I didn't want people to miss out, and I'm not going to have a stream up next week. So yeah, next week's going to be a skip week, taking care of some family stuff. And I can't say exactly what time I'm going to do it, but I was going to try and get on either later today or, you know, sometime this weekend and do the first session of the Patreon exclusive art book study group. We're going to be starting with Walt Reed. I had mentioned that, and I know Mark is in the chat, and I was actually going to mention that to you that I'm going to try and get that out either sometime today or over the course of this weekend, do the first one. And I think what I'll probably do is when I post it on Patreon, I'll have a link there so that you can watch it live if you're around. But regardless, you'll be able to watch the live stream whenever because it'll just be posted on as an unlisted video. So like if you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll be able to see it. Other people won't be able to see it. And Mar says, "Looks like you're using Designer today." Yes, I'm slowly but surely getting my my Affinity Designer sea legs under me. So let's do this here. All right. Now that's weird. For some reason, it is hiding the interface from me. There we go. All right. So I wanted to merge these two balloons, and then see how they look cropped. So let's take a square shape. And the interesting thing with Affinity is that I don't necessarily, it used to be, in Photoshop, not in Photoshop, in Illustrator. By the way, the smart guides are working because I can see now that it's giving me like those little numbers that's appearing as I drag. It's telling me how much, what the size is, what the shape is, but then also it'll let me know it's snapping to objects that I drag it over. It's just, I guess I'm used to how much stronger, I'm used to things, how they light up when it tells you that you're aligned over an object, which it does not do in Affinity. It doesn't light up when you're just dragging, or at least it doesn't seem to. Oh, no, there you go. It gives you a quick flash. So it doesn't, the interface just has little slight differences between Illustrator. And let's see. Amar says, I did some Inktober drawings in that program this past week. I have 11 days left trying to wrap those up. He said, how's this session going today? It's like, pretty good. You know what? Yeah. I started the session by kind of doing a long walkthrough of how I got to kind of a recap of my lettering process and how I got to the actual layout that I had in terms of like just how I set up a grid system for the different sizes that I output files at, having a page of my actual thumbnails to the side, laying out my panel balloons, and then from there just flipping back and forth and pasting my dialogue into the page as I go. So one of the things that I've been slowly getting used to is instead of creating clipping paths in Illustrator, is just dragging objects and then dragging another object inside of that so that it gets masked. So what just happened here is that the rectangle that I drew is now a bounding box for the word balloons. And the only thing that I need to tweak here is that while I want the panel balloons that I drew, while I want those to be there and to exist for me to be able to see it, I don't want that bounding box around it. So I just have to go up here and turn off the stroke. And now, and what I will probably do is if this is the layout that I'm going to go with, then I will probably end up breaking this the panel border up here, meaning I will either clip out. Actually, hell, I can just show you. I can just do it right now. First, let me do the same thing to this set of balloons so that I can be sure that that's what I want. And in fact, I think I will take this text and I'm going to drag this into that compound shape that I made. Let's take this, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all of this, move it all the way to the top of the text panel just so I don't have to be confused while I'm working and I can see everything. And then just take these two pieces of dialogue and drop this into the compound shape above the word balloons, but within that clipping shape. That way now I've got the whole thing in one batch. If I need to move it, I can move it as a unit. That will make it easier for me. And then I'm going to do the same thing to this set. As I was saying, I'm just doing this. These are the same pieces of dialogue, but I just wanted to see, because the way this is on the left-hand side, the one that's in the far left, the first panel, this is pretty much what I tend to like my lettering to look like. Having these two balloons, in almost like vertical columns, as opposed to having them stacked the way that they are in this one on the far right. So, as I mentioned, I will frequently do two versions of the same piece of dialogue just so that I can see how they're going to look and operate together. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with that previous panel where I make that shape and then take my balloons and my lettering and move it. Come on. It's a little fussy. Nope, that's not what I want. What I want is simply for it to be there, underneath it. And again, taking that outer shape. Ah, that's interesting. So even though the um, the outer shape says that it has a white fill, but no stroke. However, it is still not. It's not showing the uh, the white fill, which I thought would be covering it up. I guess it makes it a mask, but will still show the stroke as I'm going. Let me run through and catch up with Amar's comments here. Um, he mentions that for Affinity, it's great for drawing in raster mode, but performance for drawing in vectors needs work, which is interesting because it's supposed to be more of a vector program than a raster program, even though it's got better, pretty good raster support. He says, I plan to use it for inking or doing a ink test for some comics. I use it all the time for my thumbnails. He says, yeah, it really is that easy. The only thing is sometimes it doesn't. Oh, we're talking about the masking now. That sometimes it does it does it when you don't want it to. And I will tell you that the fact that you can just drag an object and underneath one and mask it, that actually was really irritating to me in the beginning because it was very sensitive. It's extremely sensitive. And it got to the point where it was doing it all the time whether I wanted to or not. And I was just like, I can't work like this. It's just constantly masking things. And I've just learned I need to just have an easier touch, lighter touch, take my time with it. So, given these two balloons and what this is a thumbnail for, this balloon is, what this panel and the dialogue is supposed to be covering is, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it. It's Lucifer, and he's kind of marching with his army. This is them actually approaching heaven to attack. And so this little square here with a hat is Lucifer's head, and in the background it's going to be like just a bunch of soldiers on horses and demons, and they've got the mountains behind them, and he's giving them their orders. And given these two settings, I definitely feel like the one on the left is more of what I want. So I'm just going to take this entire block of text and move that. And now that I've moved it over here, I can see what it means about this still having a white fill, even though it's masking the shape out. It's letting me see everything that's behind it. But if I go to just the selection and I go up here now and turn that fill off, now it's just, there's no fill or no stroke for this. If I had put comic book artwork behind that panel, the top of it would have been blocked by that white fill that I just got rid of. So let me actually go back over here to this one, and I can guarantee this has the same thing. It sees it's got a white fill. If I drag it out here, you can see that fill, and I don't want that, so I'm going to go and turn that off. So now, I think that I'm going to wait until after I draw my act. You know what? For you guys, I want you to see the way I would normally do this. Generally speaking, I would wait until have my letters in there before I start messing with the panel borders, cutting pieces out, changing, deleting, moving stuff. But I want you guys to also see sort of what I'm moving towards, what my end goal, my end process is. So I'm going to go ahead and move a step ahead further than I would normally do, which is I'm going to go and take this. I know I could just drag this down, the height of this, because it's behind the word balloon and no one's going to know anyway. But because I don't because I like to leave things blocked like this and know that I can come back and edit, manipulate it later. I kind of try to work in a non-destructive manner, so I can come back and adjust everything. Um, you know what? Before I get into this, let me hop back over to the comments. So Oh, Amar was saying he always tends to use an artboard and layer groups to keep the layers organized. Yeah, this thing, the organizing of layers and artboards and layers and groups does not work necessarily as well as it does in Illustrator. Like it tries to help you by automatically grouping stuff together, whereas I actually prefer in Illustrator how like an artboard is simply a workspace, but your layers and your layer sets are how things are grouped and turned on and off and locked or unlocked. And it makes it a bit easier for me in terms of like working in groups at a time. Whereas this is almost like if you create multiple artboards, as soon as you drag something onto that artboard, it gets married to that artboard as though it's a layer set. Doesn't matter what layers you're working on. If it's on an artboard and you move that artboard, not only does it drag elements with it, but it makes it just a little bit limiting in terms of how I maybe it's that I've just gotten used to working the way Illustrator does. But yeah, Amar says it will take me a few pages to get a format style down. Page layout is currently all over the place, but I only plan to release all my comics for free until I gain an audience. Well, you know what? That's why I'm running Morningstar as a web comic in my newsletter. So for those of you that aren't signed up for my newsletter, you can read it for free at news.jeremy.net. You can read the archive and catch up there. But enough of sales pitch for the moment. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna hmm, I'm trying to figure out what is actually the best way to do this. Well, let's see what happens. I bring this shape down that I plan to use to mask out the page. Actually, you know what? I think the easiest way to do this would probably be, let me get rid of that, would probably be just to take this shape, let's duplicate it, hide the one below it, switch to the node tool, and what I want, now this is me trying to remember the basics of working with the node tool. Because what I want actually is to delete just the path that's in between these two nodes. I don't want to delete the nodes themselves. Let's see here. Do I want to convert it to curves? I don't think so. I'm trying to remember how I did this in the past. I don't want to delete. See, that deleted too much. You know what? No, we can do that. That's fine. I'm being a baby about it. Let's just do this. Let's go to the pen tool. Will it let me just pick up again? Right, or you can just delete that whole thing. You can just do this. Pen tool, stroke, black, pen to pen, pen to pen. And then I go back up here and I simply get rid of the part that's masked out at the top, which I guess realistically is just me dragging that. First, let me clean this up a tiny bit. That's all. Just bring that up there. It's nice and clean. Um, let's see here. Keeman says, I'm going to head out for now. See you on another stream. Good luck with your stream. I'll see if I can come by and check out yours for a little bit. Thank you so much for stopping in. I'm probably going to be wrapping up soon here anyway. Amara says, Clip Studio Paint does this so well, but it's great playing around with different workflows. You know, I was saying earlier in my stream that somebody from my figure drawing class was actually talking about how much they disliked the lettering feature in Clip Studio Paint. So it will be interesting because I do intend at some point to really try and give it a fair shake and get a sense of what it's like to letter in Clip Studio Paint. But that said, like you said, trying different workflows. Now here's what's interesting. I don't want to squish the contents or move the contents of this what I want to do is I want to simply manipulate the bounding box, the shape that is containing all these other elements, and see if I can bring it down. Well, the other thing I can do is drag it up and then move the whole thing down. Now, what I want to know is why is this affecting the lettering flow of the objects inside of it? That's what I find odd. And that's actually one of the things I prefer about using objects just as clipping masks. So that is a little bit odd. What happens if I drag this? I have to take all of these, drag them all outside. Come on. Transform objects separately. Maybe that is what I need. Nope, still affecting this. Show alignment handles, convert to curves. I don't want to convert to curves. I simply want to be able to edit the object that is containing these objects. Let's try lock children. See what happens. Yep. See, that's the, well, you know what? It works for the panel border. What I can do is I can simply take the actual dialogue out of that set. Let's move it above. So imagine this now with, let me turn off my guides. So imagine the panel being like this with the word balloon coming, probably instead of being directly down here, coming down from the side. So it can be sort of pointing at an angle towards the characters, towards Lucifer's head. I prefer to actually have a little bit of space as opposed to having it coming straight down. But you know what? It just depends on when I'm sketching out the pencils, how I like it, how the visual flow is. But anyway, you know, I didn't get that much done. All I did was draw in 9-panel grid, paste in the first set of dialogue. But I would basically move from panel to panel. Like, you know, I've got notes on each of these of like where the dialogue balloon, like for instance, panel 4 of this page has a Uriel kind of yelling at Lucifer, asking what happened to Raphael because he can sense that that Raphael is dead. He just doesn't know why. So that's one of those where I would have the balloon placed, you know, at the top of the panel, but to the left side since the character is placed to the left side. So each of those notations, and me doing my thumbnails, I use all of that to spot all of my word balloons just going throughout the page until I get to the end and then move on to the next page. So that is pretty much it. You know, we've been on. It seems like the time goes by so quickly. You guys let me know in the comments if you want to see more lettering whether it was interesting to see this and you want me to continue with coloring the cover to Morningstar, whether you'd like me to bounce back and forth between the two. I also have a new project that I'll be mentioning probably when I come back from the live stream. When I come back after missing next week's, when I come back the week after that, which will be, grabbing my calendar, that will be the Sunday the 27th. So that'll be, because I'm gonna miss the 20th. I'll be back on the 27th. So when I come back there, I'll probably pick up with just some comic book work, but I'll also have a new project that I'll probably be ready to announce, or I might do something with a little bit more figure drawing. I'm kind of all over the place. I've got a lot of irons in the fire, even though Morningstar should be my primary focus. I get excited about a lot of ideas. Anyway, let's see. Last comment from the chat real quick is Amar says that let's see here. Amar says not the lettering and mask creating and the panel layouts in terms of it being difficult. Keyman says my stream will be on Twitch and the channel is the same name, so that's good. I'll come check you out on Twitch. Everybody else, if you feel like it, hop on to Keyman's Twitch. It's Keeman Monet, Monee Arts. So hop over on Twitch and check that out. I'm gonna pop over there and give his stream a quick watch while I wrap up my personal stuff here. Amar says I just use use fonts. My handwriting is terrible for the lettering. He says template work is as a layer group, and you can place all the layer you need into a panel. And as an overall panel group, it really is easy to customize as well. I guess I just got to get used to this. He said, thanks for the input last week. I told you man of 1,000 faces applied. I wish it could be defined by one style, but it is what it is. You know what? Being able to have that versatility in your style is a strength, not a weakness. It's just a matter of you. Remember this way. You've got a lot of bullets. You just need to pick what direction you want to fire them in. So I say do whatever you like, man. I'm just here to support. The content does not matter. Well, I appreciate the support, and I'll keep the artwork coming regardless. So on that note, again, if you enjoy these videos, if you would like to support this channel and my comic book work, if you'd like to get bonus live streams once a month, which including the aforementioned art book study group that I'm gonna be starting this week, you can go to patreon.com/Jeremy. That's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to read my comic book Morningstar as a webcomic, you can read it on my newsletter archives. That is news.gerimi.net, news.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to purchase some of my comic books, the physical copies, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate it. That's it for now. Go be creative.